Welcome to the show. I am so excited to have joining me today, Andrew McFarlane. He's the creator of the PapaPerspective blog, where he shares his tips, his laughs, and his hacks with us. Thank you so much, Andrew, for joining us today to talk about fatherhood.
Yeah, super excited to be here, Jessica. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to speak to you. You are the first father who's come on our show to really just share your experiences around fatherhood. And I am really curious to hear your perspective. And I know a lot of moms out there are just curious to hear how it feels to be, a father. Is it a similar experience? Are there differences? What has your life been like in your journey and the lessons that you've learned? I know you share a lot of that with us through your blog and, your Instagram. And I love following all of your stories and your life with you and your kids. Can you talk to us a little bit about how that all got started, Andrew, and how you had this passion for sort of sharing your life experiences with us?
Yeah, great question. So when I was in school, back in college, I started doing marketing just as part of, I was a business major doing marketing. And one of my internships was in internet marketing. And there I met somebody that did blogs and things. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'd love to do that, but I don't have anything that's that interesting about me. And so years later, when I became a dad, I'm like, oh, this is it. Like, this is my opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And then to kind of stack onto that, it really became a place where I could go and share my experience entering fatherhood. And also, I didn't grow up with a lot of little kids around me or anything like that. I didn't have super young nieces or nephews, and my sisters were relatively close in age, and so I had no idea what it was like to hang out around little kids or to like enter into fatherhood. And then on top of that, the blog was kind of like a stress relief place where I'd go and write down my story with my first son, Eli, who came into the world with a congenital heart defect. And so that it was like a good place for me to just kind of like go and write and get my thoughts out and kind of help relieve the stress of entering into fatherhood with a major heart condition for my child. And that's kind of how the blog formed. Is I'm like, I don't really know how to do the dad thing. And I think if I do this blog and kind of share my experience of what it's like becoming a dad, then it's going to force me to do a little bit of research. And it's also led to a lot of really good, deep conversations with my wife on how we can both be better parents. She actually studied early child and special education in school. And so that's helped a lot with all of the information that she has learned. And she grew up around little kids and doing a lot of babysitting and things. And that's helped us a lot, helped me a lot. But yeah, that's kind of how I got into the whole blog thing. Is I didn't know how to be a dad, so I'm going to figure it out and share it and help the other dads out there and maybe moms too that are like, what do I do?
Yes.
So
No, absolutely. And I'm sorry to hear that your son had to go through that when he was so young.
yeah.
I hope he's doing well now. And
yeah, he's our little miracle boy. He's doing great.
Oh, that's good. That's good. And how many does he have, brothers and sisters? How many kids do you have?
Yeah, so we've got two boys. We've got Eli, who's 4, and Blake, who's almost 2.
Okay, my son's also 2, so they're they're at that like destructive age, and everything is a toy, and they just want to.
I'm very familiar.
But it sounds like that sounds really interesting how you started everything, because a big part of, Stay Calm Mom is how do you stay calm sort of through all this, because you feel like you get thrown into it, and it's not really just moms that have that experience, it's fathers also. So it's super important that you're highlighting that, because I don't think dads get as much credit as you deserve sometimes, and there's not as many outlets really for you, especially when it comes to sharing your thoughts and that sort of stress relief point of it. So it's wonderful that you're doing that and sort of creating this, dad community that people can look up to. Did you also have a lot of connections with other dads, and has it helped a lot of fathers out there so far?
Yeah, there've been a couple other dads that I've talked to that have even reached out to me, like saying, hey, thanks for like showing that dads aren't, there's not every single dad's a deadbeat dad who just comes home from work and like just turns on the TV and grabs a beer and just chills. Like that's that was part of the reason of why I wanted to do this, is to show like, hey, this is what fatherhood is like in the modern era. Like, and something that I really want to push is like, even if you're a dad and you're working all day, but just getting 15 quality minutes with your kids is going to make all the difference in the future. Like if you can just set 5 to 15 minutes a day to just sit down and give that focused eye contact, one-on-one playtime with each child, if possible, then your children are just going to think the world of you.
Mm.
And that's what I'm really trying to push it. If you have a small time frame,
Mhm.
because a lot of the studies that I've done are showing that it's more about focused quality time with the kids versus like
Mhm.
hours and hours and hours.
Yes. Isn't it amazing how it kind
So
of just boils down to that? I had a
yeah,
doctor, the first episode of Stay Calm Mom, I had a doctor speak, and she was sharing that also. It really comes down to just 15 minutes a day of that quality time, like you said, with the eye
yeah,
contact, reading time, because
yeah,
kids are only really capable of forming so many memories, or the way that their kind of mind works. So that's what they're going to remember, is that even short amount of quality time. And like you said, especially in the modern era, dads are so much more involved now. I
yeah.
don't have the numbers in front of me, but definitely statistically, fathers are showing that they're present for more hours a day than they used to be. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And parents in general, mothers and fathers, are really present for more hours a day and trying to get that quality time. But fathers definitely are right on trend with that. I was looking at a study the other day, and it was discussing a little bit about how fathers feel if they're spending enough time. And it was interesting, when surveyed in this survey, 63% of dads said that they felt like they weren't spending enough time with their kids, where just 35% of moms felt that way. And then when they were also surveying the same group, when they looked at it, about 52% of dads felt that parenting was rewarding all the time, whereas moms, it was only like 48%. So
Mm,
it was sort of like an imbalance. It was, in general, it seems like fathers feel that they're not being present as much as they need to be, but at the same time their experience feels a little bit more rewarding. I'm not sure if that's a difference of like the societal pressures or how that is, but it was interesting just to think about that. And so you are not a stay-at-home dad full time, but you also work from home. Is that how you handle it, Andrew? And
yeah, so my day job is I'm a financial analyst for a tech firm
mhm,
here in Utah. And
mhm,
even before the pandemic hit, I was already a fully remote
mhm,
employee, even though the company's based out of here in Utah.
mm,
Everyone, they're pretty much like shutting down
mhm,
the office, and
mm,
half the company was remote anyway. So
mhm,
I've been working remote for a long time, and
mhm,
my wife is like, "You can't take another
mhm.
job where you're going into the office,
Yeah,
because just having
yeah,
you be accessible is such a game changer."
mm,
And so it's
definitely.
been great working from home, and I totally resonate with that. Like
Mhm,
I am home, and
mhm,
if my wife is like, "Hey, I gotta go run to the grocery store," it'd be really helpful if you could just kind of keep an ear out for the kids. If there's
mhm,
anything wrong while I go do this or that
mhm,
or the other, or doctor's appointment or anything. And so
mm,
it's been great
mm,
being able to be home and spend that time with kids. And
mhm.
I love the fact that like my commute is literally walking downstairs.
Yeah, and it's excellent. And it sounds like you and your wife have a great relationship of helping each other in
Yeah,
terms of parenting as a team. Can you talk to us a little
yeah.
bit about, you and your wife's relationship? Because we'd love to hear some tips on how to have a great, healthy parenting relationship.
Yeah, great question. So before we even started dating, I remember we were sitting on like a little bridge in the middle of some park somewhere, and we were talking about like, well, where do we see us going? And the first thing we said to each other is communication about everything, and understanding each other is going to be everything if we're going to make this work. And we've held true to that. It's been years and years of practice. I mean, don't
Hmm.
get me wrong. We're now 7 years in, and we're finally in like a good, comfortable spot.
Hmm.
So we've been able to break down our relationship to the point where we are able to give critical feedback and
Hmm.
ask for it as well.
Hmm.
There have been times where like I'm just so frustrated, because I get really frustrated when, and I've even tried to look up and see what's going on. Like when my kids are crying, sometimes, not every time, but there are sometimes where it just like triggers something, and I get super frustrated, and I don't know how to handle the situation. And so I'm like, "Hey, what could I have done differently in that situation?" And she comes back and gives me feedback of like,
Hmm.
just set the kids down, go to another room, take a couple deep breaths, then come
Hmm.
back. And then there have been times where maybe I didn't ask for feedback, but 30 minutes later she says, "Hey, that time when you were with Eli and he was not listening to you and not understanding the situation? I think it's because he wasn't feeling heard and understood. So
Hmm.
maybe next time that happens, ask how he's feeling and try to get to the root of the problem instead of trying to force him to do something."
Hmm.
And so we've been able to do that back and forth both ways, and that's helped our parenting tremendously.
Hmm.
And I really, like, I was circling back to what I was saying earlier, I really want to eliminate some sort of stigma that's around that dads don't do anything with their kids.
Mhm.
I even have like a Facebook post that I did an advertisement for a brand. And there's a lot of, I didn't know dad shaming was as much of a thing as it is. It's
Mhm.
impressive to see the amount of women attacking just a random dad on the internet,
Mhm.
for saying like, well, a lot of men aren't involved with their kids, and a lot of men just like lay around and don't do anything. I'm like, I'm really sorry to hear that. Like,
Mm.
I really don't want that to be the view of dads. Like,
Mhm.
I see a lot of dads out there that are just doing a really good job and
Mhm.
even just trying their best. And that's what I really hope for. So communicating with my wife is number one, and that's how we make our relationship
Mm.
work. And that's how we make
Yeah.
parenting work.
It sounds like you communicate in a special way because it doesn't seem like there's a lot of judgment.
No,
You're
not
both,
at all.
that's really, I think, key too, because, with the feedback, sometimes people get defensive. So it sounds like the way
Yes.
you guys discuss everything, it's very non-judgmental. It's really has a sort of a team mentality. For me, I want to also help share, like, break down that stigma around dads, because I
Yeah.
know that you and a lot of other dads out there are really present and do really care. And I'm somebody who I've really seen the other side because my son's 2, and the last time
Mm.
he saw his father was when he was 6 months old.
I'm
And
sorry to hear that.
unfortunately, yeah, thank you. So it's really just been me. And so, I
Yeah.
could look at the world sort of jaded that way and say, dads are no good, and, absentee fathers and all that. Cause I do also have some
Yeah.
girlfriends that had that happen to. But, that's not the right way to be because, in general, I think dads care as much as moms. And there's just been a bigger push for a longer period of time to have this sort of like mom support groups, all of that. So it's important that we're sort of, recognizing that you have to have that team,
Yes.
and there are so many similarities in what you go through. And really everybody's experience is different. What are some of the similarities you think, Andrew, that are between, motherhood and fatherhood, or what are sort of the differences? Do you think there's any key differences there?
Starting with similarities, I think we're very similar, and we both want to help our child. We both want to work together with
Mhm.
making sure that we can raise the next generation to make a difference and to be successful human beings, or at least what
Mhm.
each individual deems as being successful. But as far as differences go, it's definitely how we interact with our children. It's
Mhm.
very different. And I see with how my wife interacts with my boys, they go to her for specific things and needs. Like, they
Mhm.
go to her for lots of cuddles and lots of like physical touch type of, speaking of like the five love languages, they love to go to her for those type of things. But then when it comes to hanging out with dad, they just want to come and wrestle and play and roll
Mhm.
around and get all of their energy out. And
Mhm.
that's kind of the role I play. It may be different on different relationships, but that's
Mhm.
what has just kind of molded out of our family. So,
Mhm.
and then I think very different of how we react to, I want to say our initial reaction is very different when we're starting out as parents to like a crying child or an upset child or something like that. But what my wife and I have really tried to do is eliminate that difference. And
Mhm.
so that we really try to be the same. Yeah, there's different
Mhm.
qualities and characteristics. I go run outside and play more with them doing sports and things like that because I love to play hockey, and we're always out
Mhm.
on the driveway playing hockey. And my wife is inside doing crafts or like educational books.
Mhm.
Sometimes we'll do both. Sometimes my wife will go outside and play
Mhm.
hockey, and sometimes I'll do arts and crafts.
Mhm.
Not as often, but when it comes down to like the parenting aspect of how we react to our kids doing certain things, we're really trying to cut down on that difference and on that divide.
Mhm.
So our
Mhm.
kids get the exact same response no matter which parent they get to. So we're
Mhm.
trying to,
That united
yeah,
front, that united front.
yeah, we're
Yeah.
trying to eliminate those differences in our relationship at least, and it's been
Mm.
successful so far. But doesn't mean parenting's gonna ever be easy. So,
No, definitely. I think
right?
that's never going to change because
No.
I'm trying to think of, when I think of learning about fatherhood, my son doesn't have a male role model or, a
Yeah.
father figure. So I'm trying to think what lessons would he be missing out on that I can maybe try to incorporate for
Hmm.
him, which I know is a difficult question, tricky one, but I'm thinking in terms of lessons and what you're trying to bring to your children, even, the lessons you and your wife want to bring to your kids. What is really important to you, Andrew, that you're teaching your kids? And maybe I can derive a little bit from that. how I can help my son where he's lacking that sort of male role model, which I'm sure many mothers feel that way out there. I think there are a lot of
Yeah.
single moms and, like you said, moms that feel that they might have, a father for their child, but as I've heard before, they're couch fathers, or fathers that
Yes.
aren't that involved. So, I'm trying to think of what sort of lessons can we make sure that we're instilling in our kids to make sure that they're having that sort of balanced perspective.
First and foremost, the one that comes to mind is kindness. I think
Mm,
my wife and I are judging our success on how kind our children are.
mm-hmm,
And then second is emotional intelligence.
mm,
And the reason I say that is because we're really trying to hone in on teaching our children how to understand their emotions and how to react to them appropriately.
mm-hmm,
And those, I feel if they understand how to respond to their emotions appropriately,
mm-hmm,
then they're gonna be set for
mm,
a good future. And the
mm-hmm,
reason I say that is because, hey, if you're frustrated at school with somebody, obviously the best way isn't to go and attack them.
mm-hmm,
But if you need to, use self-defense if they are attacking you.
mm,
So, and then when it comes to even just a home environment where our kids are frustrated and they're just screaming and they can't seem to, they're just in this tunnel where they can't seem to
mm-hmm,
get out of being crying and frustrated. We've been really honing in on like trying to get down to our son's levels and say, hey, I can see that you're feeling frustrated. Do you feel that way? And
mm,
just helping them step through the process of emotions.
mm-hmm.
And from at least from the reading that I've done, it seems as if you're able to teach your children how to understand their emotions and things like that, it makes them tough.
Mm.
It
Because
just makes them
they
tougher.
can handle their emotions when they get hit with them.
Yeah, because they can handle it. If they get
Mhm,
hurt, if they get hit, they can say, "I'm feeling this way. Let me
mhm,
think about the best response to that, and then move
mm,
forward."
mhm,
And parenting that way and teaching them about their emotions that way, instead of like still I see sometimes where parents are kind of embarrassed when their kid falls and gets hurt or they get hit with a
mm,
bat or something and they start crying. It's like, hey, you're okay, you're okay, you're okay, toughen up,
mm,
toughen up, toughen up.
mhm,
That doesn't do anything.
mhm,
That can make things worse because it's the same. So I think about it this way. I'm playing hockey. I still play
mhm,
ice hockey in some men's leagues. If I play goalie. So if I take a puck to the shoulder or to some other very uncomfortable places
mhm.
and I fall down to the ice, I don't want a bunch of guys saying like, "Hey man, get up, get up, get up." I'm like, I need a minute to just
Yeah.
breathe,
Mhm.
make sure I'm not bleeding from any places, and
Yeah.
if I'm good, I'm gonna let you know when I'm good because
Mm.
I want to keep playing and I want to win
Mhm.
this game.
I love that. I think it's a great measure of success as a parent,
Yeah,
that you guys have, that you and your wife have as a team. Because a lot of times, like you said, there's those old mentalities of sort of,
right.
suppress your emotions. And also, I think
Oh
there's an
yeah.
old mentality of judging your success as a parent about what your kids have achieved. So maybe academically or
Yes.
what their grades
Yes.
are, all these things. I think it's a great perspective and a great mentality to have about, and I think as a generation, sort of our generation has adopted this a little bit more than old generations on measuring success as a parent by
Yes.
how well your kids adapt and how well your kids treat others. And you're, like you said, that is going to help them throughout school, get along with their teachers, get along with their coworkers. Sort of their overall measure of success is you're gonna help increase it once you help them really understand how to have that high EQ.
Yes. That's
Hmm.
exactly it. Yeah.
Super.
Because my wife and we've been going through a lot of like personal and familial changes lately, and we've
Mm-hmm.
decided that like the key for success for us is building good, healthy relationships with a lot of people. That's what makes us happy.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how we're going to view our success. It's not money, it's not
Mm-hmm.
things we have, it's the people around us.
Mm.
And
It's
having a high EQ helps achieve that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's good that you're starting off with, it seems like you have a very healthy relationship, you and your wife. And so it kind of stems from there. And, with having that healthy relationship, there are a lot of couples out there that might need help sort of kind of
Yeah.
bridging and bonding, and there might be a little bit of a divide now, especially with kids and that added pressure and that added stress.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for us, as for sort of the male perspective, for the moms out there listening? How can we help support our husbands or our partners maybe when they're stressed? Or what has worked for you? Should we be giving them space? Should we have them have a guys' night? Should we be doing
Yes.
anything for them? I mean, yes to everything, right?
Yes. Yes
what
to
can we
everything.
what can we do to sort of build those strong partnerships in parenthood?
So yeah, first off, first and foremost, if there are issues, then acknowledge that, focus on being self-aware and take care of yourself first.
Mm-hmm.
I've had to go to a therapist a couple of times, and it's made worlds of a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And it's gone and given me tools that I can use to take and go forward to help get my relationship over these 7 years to where it is now,
Mm-hmm.
to where we're good and scot-free. Second is definitely that. Keep and maintain your hobbies, and also make sure your spouse has, forms, keeps, maintains hobbies and friends. That is so key, because I feel there are a lot of, and maybe it comes from the previous generation a little bit too, where it was like, oh, my kids are absolutely everything. I need to do everything for my kids and forget it and lose myself. And it's not about me. It's all about the kids. It's no, you got to take care of yourself. So keep your hobby. I still go and play hockey. I get out and play with the boys and the other dads and stuff like that. And I'm out late at night doing my thing. And then on the flip side, I make sure, like, if my wife has a girls' night scheduled or a girls' vacation trip, she does an annual trip with her girlfriends.
Oh, nice.
And I say, go get out of the house. Let me take the kids, and you go do you, because you need to make sure that you're good, because you're with the kids longer than I am, because I'm trying to pay the bills, doing a full-time job. So yeah, making sure that you support each other in your hobbies, and then kick them out the door if they haven't done it in a while.
I
Like,
love that.
hey, I've got the kids. You go this whole weekend, or you go this night. Grab your friends, and if need to, like, as the dad or husband, like, call up your wife's friends and be like, hey, get my wife out of the house.
Yeah,
She needs to go have a
absolutely.
night. Yeah.
Absolutely. And for all the women out there listening, if that doesn't sound like something your man would do for you, have a conversation with them and say, this is what I
No,
need
for
you to do
real.
for me. And if they're really not going to be there for you like that, maybe have a long, hard look at that relationship, because you need to have a partner. And like you said, it's really important that you maintain that individual identity. So I think it's important as
Yes.
parents, we have sort of that partner identity, between you guys as parents. Then you want to
Yes.
maintain your individual identity, because it's all going to be linked to your happiness. And that's going to be linked to
Yes.
your overall success in parenthood.
And it goes both ways. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if the husband maybe is like seeming super stressed with work or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
say, hey, go grab your boys and go play football, or go have a video game night or movie night, or whatever your husband likes to do. So
Support each other.
it goes both ways, for
Absolutely.
sure.
No, that's really interesting. I love that aspect of what you're saying. And also, Andrew, on your blog, you speak a lot about sort of parenting tips and parenting hacks.
Yes.
And I love one I saw this morning. My son is 2. So in your parenting hack, it was, how do you get the kids away from the tablets and the computers?
Yeah.
And you had built sort of a train track out of these
Yep.
blocks, because you said, they will come over to destroy it. And that really resonated
Yes.
with me, because that's my son's favorite thing to do. Is I have the same train track, and he comes to destroy it every single time. So I love those tips and those sort of like funny hacks for us. Over the time that you've been doing the blog, what sort of tips stand out to you, or hacks stand out to you that you might want to share with us?
Yeah. First and foremost, I would say, don't beat yourself up. I think if you're listening to this podcast, or if you're following other moms and dads or influencers or whatever we are, bloggers, you're trying to do your best. And I can tell. And just, give yourself a breather there first. Second, if your kids are ever, driving you nuts, don't be afraid to take a break. Because I think that cycles back to what I was saying earlier of, kick your spouse out the door if you can tell they're stressed or having a hard time. Let them take a break, because they're going to come back recharged and ready to rock and roll. Yeah, take care of your second is take care of yourself. You got to take care of yourself if you're going to take care of the little ones. So like my wife and I, we alternate who goes to the gym in the morning. We may try to maintain our hobbies, things like that. So take care of yourself.
And that helps you just kind of stay de-stressed.
Yeah, that helps you stay sane, so you can do all the other little tips and tricks and things like I showed earlier. Because if you're stressed, you're not
Mhm.
going to be able to think straight to be like, okay,
Mm.
let me go build some cool structure and say, hey kids, check out this cool thing I built, for them to
Mhm.
come over and get off the tablets and do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Instead, you're just going to explode at your kids because you're tired and
Mhm.
frustrated and want them to get off the
Mhm.
TV.
Mhm. You have to take care
So
of yourself first,
take
and
care of
then
yourself first.
that's how you be your best self for your kids.
Amen.
Absolutely. And is there any sort of, in terms of parenting, sort of hacks that you've maybe have stumbled upon through the years of doing your blog, or tips or anything like that? Anything that
Hmm.
really works for your kids in terms of, maybe, I think a lot of the struggle that we're having right now is just being stuck inside and COVID and looking for activities to keep our kids happy and all of that. Is there anything like that, Andrew, that, maybe you found that works for you and your family in terms of tips and hacks for us?
Yeah, and I guess it's just something that's kind of happened over time, just because I'm a big hockey
Mm.
fan, and
Mhm.
for us, it's getting outside.
Mm.
We Even if it's cold, like, yeah, in the wintertime, it's snowing, it sucks, and it takes like 30 minutes to put on
Mhm.
a jacket. Like,
Mhm.
I know, I get it, it's tough.
Mhm. You
It's
have to put the mittens on the kids and all the boots
like,
and everything, yep.
oh my goodness. Some of
Mhm.
these days, it's like, why am I trying to get my child outside? Anyway,
Mhm.
that's a different story.
Mhm.
But yeah, like for us, it's getting outside and doing what you love. Find what you
Mhm.
love and go and do that. But then something
Mm.
that, even if that's starting to get old and tired,
Mhm.
especially with the pandemic, something we did this weekend is we just got back from a kind of a staycation. We just went 3 hours down south to an Airbnb, and we
Mm.
just hung out in southern Utah, and we just went through some of the national parks.
Oh, nice.
And our boys just loved getting out of the
Mhm.
car and walking around and playing in the
Mm.
snow and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
so if the same old tricks and things aren't working for you, have a weekend that mixes
Mm.
it up. Take a
Mhm.
Friday off, go do a staycation, and
Mm.
get out in nature, because
Mm.
that's, I don't know, that's
Yeah.
what works for
No,
us.
absolutely. And our kids benefit from the same things that we do for
Yeah.
those mental breaks, getting out in
Yes.
nature and having a break of scenery. And they need it, especially right now with the rising rates of childhood
Yeah.
depression and everything with what we've gone through the past year. So,
For real.
so that's really nice you guys were able to do that. And
Yeah.
definitely also it's important maybe to laugh, because I know a big part of your platform, what
Yeah.
you share with us is, about your sharing memories of, of you and your family and laughs with each other. I think that's really important to just kind of like you said, get rid of some of that guilt, take things light and take things one day at a time. And, it'll all work out because you're trying a little bit every day as a parent.
Yeah. And
Hmm.
especially, even some of the same old day-to-day things that you do now, if you get out and just get away,
Hmm.
like kind of what we did this weekend, something that we noticed
Hmm.
was, yeah, we were still like kind of watching movies and playing board games and
Hmm.
stuff that we normally would do at home. But because we're in a totally different
Mm.
environment, it kind of refreshes and renews it. And it
Mm.
helps, like you were saying, it
Mm.
kind of helps the kids regenerate as well.
And for family bonding.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Well,
totally.
and how can our listeners learn more about you, Andrew, your blog, and follow you and everything your family does?
Yeah, best place to find me is Instagram at PapaPerspective. You can find me on TikTok as well, same handle. And then the blog is papaperspective.com. And those are the places where I'm normally active. Every so often, I'll throw a tweet out there and try to see if people enjoy my humor or not. But yeah, those are the main places.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your life so genuinely with all of
Yeah.
us, and sharing your tips, your hacks, your laughs, and just all of your advice with us as well today.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Jessica.
It's
Appreciate it.
been a pleasure, Andrew. Talk to you soon.